Today's episode is special because it's a milestone for the Reading Lab. I thought I should do something interesting for our first double digit episode. So, for this 10th episode, here is my first ever book series recommendation and review. Last August, I was waiting with bated breath for this book to be released. I had pre ordered it about a week before its release date. I started reading it the instant it fell into my hands and finished it about 3 days later. It's the seventh and latest book in a sensational series that is famous for more reasons than one. This is The Running Grave, the seventh strike novel written by Robert Galbraith, who in reality is none other than J.K. Rowling. Stay with me to find out what makes this series so sensational. Let's switch on the reading lamp. Hello, I'm Asavari, and on this channel, I review books and talk about reading in general. Let's take a look at the publishing details of this book as well as the whole book series.
Facts and figures.
This seventh book, The Running Grave, was released in August 2023, but the first book in the series came out 10 years before that in April 2013. Why did J.K. Rowling choose to write under a male pseudonym? She has said that she wanted to start writing crime novels, but she wanted it to be just about the writing. She wanted to work without the hype or expectation and receive totally unvarnished feedback. In fact, she submitted the manuscript to a number of publishers as the work of an unknown first time author, Robert Galbraith. One of the publishers was honest enough to admit later that they were now kicking themselves for having turned down the manuscript after receiving it. For the first 3 months after the first book, The Cuckoo's Calling, was published, it did decently well. But then, by mistake, a lawyer at the law firm hired by J.K. Rowling disclosed the real identity of Robert Galbraith to a friend who leaked the story. The sales of the book skyrocketed almost overnight, but J.K. Rowling was furious and took legal action against both of them. Later, she accepted the apology of the law firm and they made a substantial, undisclosed donation to a charity of Rowling's choice, the Soldiers Charity. Rowling herself has also donated royalties from the book to the charity because they helped with the research for the book's hero, Cormoran Strike, who's shown to be an ex army man. The books have been published by Sphere Books, and here is the order in which they were published. The Cuckoo's Calling, 2013, 464 pages. The Silkworm, 2014, 454 pages. Career of Evil, 2015, 512 pages. Lethal White, 2018, 656 pages. Troubled Blood, 2020, 944 pages. The Ink Black Heart, 2022, 1024 pages. And The Running Grave, 2023, 960 pages. In March 2024, J.K. Rowling announced The Hallmarked Man as the title of the eighth book in what is likely going to be a 10-book series. Now let's talk about the books in the series. I'm going to give you a short intro to the two protagonists and two-line summaries of each book. And as usual, no spoilers, no worry, just
The cover story.
the protagonist of the Strike novels is, of course, Private Detective Cormoran Strike. He is a war veteran and an ex investigator of the Royal Military Special Investigation Branch. He has lost the lower half of his right leg in Afghanistan. He is the illegitimate son of a famous rock star, but has very little contact with his father. And he is almost completely broke. He has started a private detective agency and lives in a small, tiny flat just above his office. We are also introduced to Robin Ellacott, who is sent as a temporary secretary by an agency, although he can barely afford to pay the agency. By the end of the first novel, Robin becomes an important part of the detective agency. And I would say the books are more like Strike and Ellicott novels. There are also a number of other recurring characters in the novels that we become more familiar with as each novel picks up their story from where it was left off in the previous novel. Now, for the two line summaries. In the first novel, The Cuckoo's Calling, Strike is hired by the brother of a model who died 3 months ago after she jumped from the third floor balcony of her London flat. But her brother doesn't believe that it was suicide. As he investigates the death of the model, Strike himself also comes close to danger. In the second book, The Silkworm, Strike is hired by the wife of a notorious writer who has disappeared without a trace. The third novel, Career of Evil, begins when a mysterious package is delivered to Robin at the office, and she's horrified to discover that it contains the severed leg of a woman. Strike thinks it's the work of someone from his past who has a grudge against him. In the fourth novel, Liesel White, a troubled young man called Billy comes to Strike's office to ask him to investigate a crime that he thinks he witnessed as a child. But he runs away from the office in a panic before they can get all the details from him. The investigation goes from the back streets of London to the secret sanctums of the Parliament. The fifth novel, Troubled Blood, is about a doctor who disappeared almost 40 years ago. Strike is hired by the doctor's daughter, who needs to find out what exactly happened to her mother 4 decades ago. In the sixth novel, Ink Black Heart, Eddie Ledwell, the co creator of a popular cartoon, comes to the office in a frantic, disheveled state, begging the agency to find the true identity of a mysterious online figure, who seems to be targeting her. Robin declines the case because the agency has never dealt with cybercrime before, but they get involved in the case when Eddie Ledwell is found murdered in a cemetery. In the latest book, The Running Grave, Strike is hired by the father of a young man who joined a mysterious religious cult, apparently of his own free will, but then completely cut off relations with his family. Robin joins the cult undercover to attempt to rescue the young man, but very soon she herself falls in danger. Let me give you three great reasons for why you just cannot miss this book series.
Speaking my mind.
Reason number one, the mysteries. There is usually a main plot and several subplots, as in one main case and several smaller cases. Maximum bang for the buck. The mysteries are absolutely intriguing, and Rowling hooks you from beginning to end. That's not an easy task when you consider the fact that three of the books are almost 1000 pages long. Maybe she could have cut down on the length, but when you're actually reading the book, nothing seems superfluous. I did feel fatigued in places, but only because I refused to put the book down unless it was absolutely necessary. The mysteries are outstanding, with twists and turns that will take you completely by surprise. Sometimes towards the end, you may see them coming, but they are never disappointing. Reason number two, the Strike and Ellicott pairing. The two protagonists are unusual and dashing. They enchant you because they are not perfect. It's their flaws that make them so appealing. The relationship between the two of them is constantly evolving. If you expect a typical romance, you're not going to get it. They are great work partners and there is chemistry, but they behave like real people. Once you start reading, you'll realize that the evolution of the story of Robin and Strike is a huge part of the attraction of the novels. There are hundreds of online fan clubs and forums dedicated to Strike and Ellicott, and people spend hours discussing their story and predicting how it is likely to go forward. And finally, reason number three, the brilliant writing. The language, the descriptions, the character development, the writing is par excellence. The books are a masterclass in suspense writing. One more noteworthy feature of the writing is its authenticity. Whether it's the religious cult in the running grave, the online gaming and chat forums in Ink Black Heart, or any of the other settings and situations, the amount of research that has obviously gone into the writing of these novels is humongous. The plots and characters may be fictitious, but they represent the real world with accuracy. I've loved the strike novels from day one, but I became a devout fan after the latest book, The Running Grave, for a very personal reason. When I was 20 years old, I had a brush with the religious cult. I had attended a 3-day residential camp, and as I read The Running Grave, I could see my younger self in the people slowly being manipulated into joining the cult. I could recognize the behaviors and techniques of the people running the camp that I attended in the ones that Rowling describes in the book. I was constantly breaking out in goosebumps, and I thought to myself that this book could be the handbook about tactics used by cults. You need to read the book in sequence to fully enjoy them. But I tell you, if you're a young adult or the parent of one or the parent of a teenager, you need to read the last two books. They are an education in cyberbullying and cultism, delivered in the form of the most interesting detective fiction I've ever read. On that note, I want to read out a quote almost at the end of the seventh book. It's a very profound observation about how some people can paradoxically be happy about being unhappy. Do you know what I mean? It's like suffering is a badge of honor that they don't want to give up. Strike is talking about someone like that, and he says,
Quote unquote.
it's dangerous to make a cult of your own unhappiness. Hard to get out. Once you've been in there too long, you forget how. Now, for the first time, I'm going to apply the LINEDSCAPE rating system to a book series as a whole rather than a single book. Obviously, each book is going to differ, but I'm focusing on the qualities of the book collectively.
LINESCAPE Rating.
You know that LINESCAPE is an acronym for the 10 factor book rating system that I have devised. You can find a link up there or in the description below to a more detailed video about it. You can check that out. So, here goes. L for language, 9 on 10. I for impact. The novels are pure reading pleasure, but the insights into human feelings and behaviors are quite deep, 9 on 10. N for novelty. Almost every book has a unique premise and a unique setting, 9 on 10. E for engagement. Once I started reading, I wasn't able to put down any of the books until I'd reached the end, 10 on 10. D for descriptions. Maybe long winded in places, resulting in really thick books, but great for atmosphere building, 9 on 10. S for sense, also known as logic. With all the convoluted plot twists, there are hardly any that seem illogical, 9 on 10. C for characters. This is probably one of the strongest points of Rowling writing as Galbraith. The characters are real and entirely believable. They are as likable and as frustrating or irritating as real people, 9 on 10. A for aesthetics. All the covers are dark and mysterious in keeping with the genre. All the books can be read on Kindle, but I must warn you about the one very irritating exception. In book 6, Ink Black Heart, a lot of the story progresses through chats and online forums. Those are in picture format on the Kindle. If you have a Kindle Paperwhite like me, you cannot zoom into the picture. So even if you increase the font, the pictures stay the same and they are liberally scattered throughout the book. I literally spent half my time using a magnifying glass reading those portions on my Kindle. It was really irritating. I would recommend that you read this particular book, Ink Black Heart, or rather all of them in paperback and not on the Kindle. Out of sheer vexation, I give aesthetics a 7 on 10. P for plot. All the novels have outstanding plots. 10 on 10. E for enjoyment. I would give it 11 if I could. 10 on 10. That gives us a total score of 91 on 100, which translates into a whopping 5 stars. I like all of the books in the series, but I'm partial towards The Running Grave. Let me know in the comments below if you've read the series. What did you think of the books? And which is your favorite book so far? Now it's time to put my thoughts.
In a nutshell,
The strike novels by Robert Galbraith, that is J.K. Rowling, are some of the best in detective fiction. The style is completely different from the Harry Potter books. So different that it is hard to believe that they came from the same author. The mysteries are riveting, the characters are appealing, and the writing is outstanding. They are substantial, in size, especially the last three, which are almost 1000 pages long. But they are really worth the effort. I absolutely recommend reading the entire series, which rates 5 stars on my Linescape rating system. There have been 7 books till now, and I'm convinced that the 3 books supposedly in the pipeline will be equally interesting. Please remember to read them in the order of publication because the storyline of the recurring characters progresses with each novel. You will get the best reading experience when you read them in sequence. If you've never read them before, you can get the first book from the Amazon link in the description or in the pinned comment. Time to go. I upload a fresh episode every week. If you liked this episode, do give me a thumbs up. Also, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon so you never miss an episode. And please share with your friends and family. The more, the merrier. This is Asaveri signing off for now, and until the next time, have fun under the reading lamp. Switch on, read on.